under Kathy is things change from feature film to series all the time. They go back and forth. They try to, and that's also why there's some inconsistencies, you know. But I am honestly, yes, I think if you told me in the 90s the only place you could get new Star Wars is on this one location, you only have to pay so much a month, and it still isn't an amazing success, I would like, you're insane. I would have bet $1 million against that. But that's where we are.
What an interesting way to put it. You're absolutely right.
What would you think, like when George, and people are like, oh, I just want to back. I followed the movie news back then, which little I can. We used to talk about on the school bus. We talked about Nicolas Cage being Superman, Roger Corman, Fantastic Four movie, what George Lucas would do with a sequel trilogy. You know, George went back and forth on what if he was going to make a sequel trilogy. Then he decided to make the prequels, and then he's like, I will do the sequels again. He went back and forth. He changed his mind quite a few times.
Yeah.
And I'm like, imagine them making a Star Wars TV show and it being, and not many people caring. That's insane.
Golly. Absolutely.
Rational Skeptic, $2. I DM'd you Lucasfilm news. Okay. Thank you, Rational. Let's get a little bit more to there, but let everyone, see if this video holds up for Grace, and if you believe what she said back then. And I will add to this, I think the reason that she's still around is because she started all these projects, producer credit, and she's still going to be hanging around. And people don't want to deal with that. It's not a fresh start. And I said that's something, even though I disagreed with DC didn't go the way I wanted to.
Oh.
They did a fresh start with James Gunn, but that actually is probably helping it right now, right?
All right, well, let's see what context Grace provides.
Yeah, and wouldn't you have liked that fresh start for Star Wars, Voltaire, personally?
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I would have loved the fresh start for Star Wars from after Rise of Star, whatever, what's it called?
Yeah.
Last Jedi.
That would give Star Wars a boost. Okay, let's hear.
I can tell you that this news originates from deep inside Pinewood Studios, where, of course, they shoot the majority of the films. And it was divulged to me late last week. And I was traveling, and I wanted to make sure I did the information justice. So it's the very first video I'm making upon my return from Los Angeles. All right, so are you ready? Because it's potent stuff. So there was a secret conference call with all the top Star Wars brass in attendance. The kind of call where apparently security guards stand outside the different conference room doors to make sure that no one eavesdrops, right? But here's the kicker. Top brass for not just Star Wars, but also Marvel and Pixar were also in on the call, but listening only. Likely at the request of Bob Iger, who wants their advice on how to fix this show. And yes, he does know it's a shit show. Evidence? The word that he wants Kathleen Kennedy out. He actually does, but nobody will take it.
I 100% do believe that. I think Iger wanted his go-to guys, either Abrams or Favreau at the time. And then recently it came out this year that Favreau doesn't want it because he makes more money doing his other projects for Disney. They actually commented on that.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't want it. And yes, I 100% believe this. I mean, it's possible it's made up, but I don't think so. I think that this is when this video was made, this was after Last Jedi. This was before Rise of Skywalker. So that was a shit show.
Okay.
Yeah, that was even worse then.
Her job. Several have been approached, but turned it down, including J.J. Abrams, who turned it down flat and didn't even
and then went to DC.
Why does nobody want to run Star Wars? Well,
I'm sorry to keep pausing, but to add to that, it's not like he was opposed to an idea of working on a universe like that because he went to DC right after and then didn't do anything. So his company, Bad Robot, was very wanting something like this, some type of agreement where they'd make a lot of money, produce projects for a studio. They were looking for something like this. And then he left, went to DC, and then his second in command, Michelle Rejwan from Bad Robot, stayed behind with Kathy, and then she left. She was supposed to help Kathy get projects rolling. And that's another reason I know that I know from the facts that she hasn't done as well as people say that she has, because her Padawan already left. They did this big big announcements through the trades about Michelle Rejwan and how she's going to help, and she was J.J. Abrams. She worked with J.J. Abrams. Yes.
Yeah.
So that was going to help, and she's already gone again.
So your theory is that JJ didn't want the job because Kathleen would.
But he said, "Here, Kathy, Michelle is a good. Someone could help you with this," and then she's gone too after all the projects didn't come to fruition.
Okay.
Michelle Rejwan, when she was on, people think I don't know my shit. I do know my shit. She was on when they announced the Patty Jenkins project.
Is that right?
Yes. She was on under Kathy to help her. And she was helping produce, she helped make that announcement and everything. And then when that fell through, she's gone. Michelle, what happened to Michelle Rejwan? This is an old video. I want to revisit it, Beltree. Rashtal says, Max, show my link. It explains who will take over. I will after the video. We're not going to watch the whole video. We're going to watch a few more minutes. But this really, I wanted to see how Grace's video holds up now. I think it still explains a lot of the chaos behind the scenes. I really do.
Fascinating stuff.
What do you think? I don't think you've ever seen this one, Voltaire.
No, I haven't. But that J.J. Abrams' right-hand woman left. See, I think that the Patty Jenkins debacle is bigger than everybody makes it out to be. I think it was a big, big deal that they had that. They did that short, and then Kathy and her went at it. And that somebody left subsequent to that is not surprising to me.
And if you really don't think, if you think she's just making that up that they wanted, why wouldn't Iger want J.J. Abrams? They begged him, but he was not going to come back for episode 9.
Uh-huh.
He didn't want to make it. He wanted to do the first movie of the trilogy and leave, and then they begged him back.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, there's got to be more to this. They want him to take over too, and and Bad Robot was in a position where they wanted to do an agreement with the big company for their whole production for the whole production of Bad Robot.
So that was a mistake by them too, by the way. J.J. Abrams, as soon as he said, like, I'll do it half-assed, I'll do the first episode and then leave a mystery box for everybody else. They should have told him get lost.
No, J.J. Abrams, that was not a mistake, Voltaire, because this again, I'm going to make myself bigger for this. This is one of my biggest issues with Hollywood and the machine is you make money, you make the most money by starting stuff and not finishing and not having a complete evergreen project. And this is why D.B. Weiss and David Benioff started to have an issue. They started making new agreements before they even finished the last one great. And I still like Game of Thrones. I want to revisit the ending. But they stated you make the most money, most success by jumping ship, leaving projects, and moving on to a new one, make a new agreement. Yeah. And J.J. Abrams has made way more money by doing that than actually staying and finishing. So there's incentive to move on. And it's the industry that creates the problem. Even though I could criticize JJ all day, the industry is the problem. It rewards people for starting stuff and leaving. Yeah, even show. You know why shows after a certain season they start to go to shit?
Because they get rid of people.
Because the showrunners that create the successful show get a lot of money, a new contract to create something else, and they hand it off to another crew most of the time.
Right.
That's a lot of the time what happens.
I get that, but when they brought
the viewership drops a little bit, so they start cutting the production costs a little bit. That's why the quality slips.
Right, but when they brought JJ on for the prequels, they knew he didn't want to do a full commitment, and they still did it. He was transparent about that, though, Max. Right?
He was a big name at the time. He just made Star Trek a success.
Correct. I know why they wanted him. Mm-hmm. Right, but
that was also he's very connected to Kathy.
Well, he didn't fully commit, and they still took him on. They shouldn't have done that. It was good for him
because that's another problem with the industry is the release dates are the issue or what they worried about, not quality. Like they could have salvaged the sequel trilogy if they would have delayed it a little bit. Even George, when he made a trilogy, it was like 10 years worth of movies. It wasn't in 6. Mm. They could have smoothed some storylines over, adjusted, made it overall flow better if they would have delayed it, but they were not going to delay The Rise of Skywalker.
The Last Jedi was so bad that ruined everything. What do you want me to tell you?
But they could have done things to make it better. Like in Rise, if they would have smoothed it out, done better storytelling, better writing, and and really thought about how to address some of the plot holes, but they just like, all right, let's see what else she has to. Let's give her a few more minutes. Help wanted.
It's probably pretty obvious to many of you, but let me spell it out for you. And that's in risk-averse Hollywood, right?
Yes.
Nobody wants to run a house divided, which is apparently what Kathleen Kennedy has created. It's divided between her loyalists, which she brought in and wear those Forces Female T-shirts, right? And then the loyalists to the brand itself that were there before Kathleen, right? Now this part's my opinion. I'm sure Dave Filoni would love this job. And I think it's unfortunate that Disney obviously doesn't feel that he has the capabilities to do it. Maybe thinking he's more creative and doesn't have the business ability. We've talked about this before. Just get him a business partner to work with and you do a Walton Roy. You split it right down the middle. Creative and business.
They just did that. Well, they have him and Carrie Beck is his partner.
Well,
and honestly, he gets along with Kathy more than most, so he's probably the only person that could be actually following up Kathy right now.
And this that Carrie Beck, she's a Kathy Kennedy.
But are you got to be? There's no way they didn't want Favreau ahead of Filoni. No way.
Of course,
Favreau is $1 million baby for Disney. Lion King, Iron Man. The MCU is as much Favreau's the result of Favreau's success as
right, and it's no secret Iger loves him, right? Everybody knows that, right?
He's consistently delivers.
Yeah,
consistently delivers. Movie talk is just what Kathy Kennedy and James Gunn and Zack Snyder did today. Actually, I covered Spaceballs. Oh, I didn't even get to. Thank you for reminding me. You were trying to trash me, CJH, but you reminded me that Kathy came out with a quote today about the future of Disney Star Wars, which we'll get to right after this.
Absolutely.
But let's finish this out, and then we have some mailbag. Finally.
Mm-hmm.
It worked great for the Disney company, so why not try it with Star Wars? I mean, his whole life has practically been leading up to this, and his career has no other path it can take anyway. So I think he would roll the dice to run a house divided. Also, if it's divided, why don't you just get rid of Kathleen's loyalists with Kathleen, right? I mean, just cut them all out. I mean, it would be a mass firing, but it would be a karma.
Ultimately, they did not do this.
Fired a number of creative people, so I don't think there would be anything wrong. She gambled and she lost. And when she was winning, it was impressive. But
that's pretty cool that she said that.
You better make sure you keep winning, and Kathleen, of course, has not done that. So, Dave, just hold on. If episode 9 is DOA, which I think it very well might be, Bob Iger might call you after.
What's that?
I said from a business standpoint, she's 100% right? That would have made sense.
Yeah.
Clean house at that point.
Yeah. Rational's article is great for this after. We'll give her, I want to get to the point where she says no one else wants it. I think that's what she said.
And I think it's also a sad commentary on Hollywood that nobody's willing to take this job and just fire half the people in Lucasfilm and write this ship. I mean, it's a very exciting, I think, job opportunity and also a chance to become a Hollywood legend like Kevin Feige. So I don't understand. I think, the studio executives continuing to be ruled by fear rather than the love of the work.
I do think if James Gunn loved Star Wars as much as DC, he would have done it. But I don't think a lot of people would want to go into that. People don't want. I don't think people would want to go into. Look at DC. James Gunn was not the first choice. They wanted Todd Phillips. Thank goodness they didn't go with Todd Phillips after Joker 2. But he had. Everyone's like, why wouldn't you take that? Why wouldn't you take? I think we saw enough of her. But I think this is a good video. I think she was onto something. It is an old-ass video.
Kennedy was hanging around. Why the hell would you want to be doing that job?
No. Especially if you want a career.
Very powerful person.
No, I think she was right on that video. Let me get to Rational, and then we'll get to the news that Kathy just dropped. There are a lot of failed actors and directors in movie talk, and you're not wrong there, but I still think she does a good job, and I do think she, out of anybody, could get sources easily for how long.
Female creators.
She was one of the OGs of YouTube with Indie Mogul before Beyond the Trailer. She was doing YouTube, so she had the connections to the companies before anyone else did, before it was a thing, before people talked about social media influencers. You know, so it's so easy for her to have sources. It's not hard to have sources. That's the other thing. It's really not. Okay, so let me see. The Hollywood Reporter. Okay, I could just bring up the article. Which I really want to get hype for Mandalorian Grogu. I'm just not there yet.
No.
But this is consistently but what I've been hearing about who I'll get back to talking about. I'm going to be seeing Superman, Jurassic World, and Fantastic Four the opening weekends. So, all right, and thank you, Rational. The Hollywood Reporter says Dave Filoni and Carrie Beck are the current candidates to succeed Kathy Kennedy, and I think Dave Filoni is the only person that would take this job because Kathy Kennedy still gets credit for projects. He doesn't care. He just loves Star Wars. He's from my neck of the woods. Look at that Pittsburgh Penguins hat.
Okay.
He grew up in my city, you know.
Why is he a cowboy?
He likes to wear cowboy hats, but I love Dave Filoni. I followed him since Avatar, The Last Airbender animated series, you know.
Okay.
I think he does great work. People do hate him as much as they hate Kathy, though. Especially
things to make people lose faith.
Especially the people that love the books from the 90s. What does they call that? The expanded universe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, Bruce, Kathy did not get another extension, and she did not. I did a video on this. I don't know. You always question me, bro. I did a video on this where she did not debunk that she's, that she is stepping down. She just says, I'm going to be around. I'm going to make movies till the end, till I die. That doesn't mean she's not stepping down.
Right. But at the same time, Bruce,
no, remember when I did a video on that. She did not debunk that she's stepping down as president. She just says, I'm going to keep making movies.
We went through the article.
That's not the same thing. That's not the same thing. So, yes, it's possible she stays on to the president of Lucasfilm. But she didn't debunk that. She didn't debunk it, Bruce. She said, I'm going to keep making movies till forever. So there was a trending rumor that she addressed, and she decided to go to Vanity Fair or wherever it was getting so much traction because everyone was covering it, including the hot mic. And that's all she could say. It's like, I'm going to keep making movies. That's not debunking that you're stepping down. So she didn't get in another extension, but she will. But the thing is, she can hang around. Dave Filoni would be fine with that. And that's why he works, right? 100%. I mean, whether you like it or not, this is probably our best option. I like Filoni and I'm rooting for him, but I would have preferred.
I don't think she'll ever fully leave.
I would have preferred Favreau Filoni, honestly.
Look, I would have preferred them to clean house. I got to be honest.
And honestly, at the time, I would have preferred J.J. Abrams, but I think that would have been a bigger mistake than keeping Kathy.
No, that's crazy talk, Max.
No, at the time, but then he fell through with all those DC projects. So he's worse than Kathy. J.J. Abrams, those recent output.
I don't support you on that.
You don't support me on that.
No, I think there's nobody worse than Kathy. She's done a terrible job.
The only person I would pick Kathy over is if you're talking about executives, and if you consider the president, I would even pick Kathy over Trump. That's how much I think Trump's the worst executive.
Over her, I would
no. I would pick. So people, that's just to show you my scale. I'm not going to get too political here. I think he is one of the worst executives. If you consider the president an executive, the executive branch, the president, I think he is the worst.
Careful.
I would vote for Kathy over Trump.
No, you wouldn't.
Yes, I absolutely would.
No, you wouldn't.
I absolutely would.
You're lying.
Look, she's not making Star Wars. She's running the country, and she's at least kind. And
Oh
you
my
know.
God! Could you imagine if she was running the country, how she would destroy it?
I would totally vote for her over.
We'd be
Absolutely.
broke. The country would
Yeah.
be out of money.
Yeah. That's crazy. I don't think you're saying about that. And I don't know. I'm just explaining to you my scale. Like I don't hate Kathy Kennedy. I think she's I think she deserved the opportunities, failed. It's still a rumor, to give Bruce's disclaimer here, but I don't think there's anyone else that would take the position the way it is now, because she's not technically leaving. She's still sticking around. And I think the only one that would accept that is Filoni. So that's why I think it's,
who is a Kathleen Kennedy, whatchamacallit, protege. You know what I mean?
yeah. Carrie Beck, I don't know too much about